Hey, and welcome to Module 2, Reclaimed Mind and Body. I'm super excited. This module is jam-packed. Don't worry. Just make sure you have your notebook out or whatever it is that you're taking notes with. And again, take notes intuitively. If you have it, get your glass of water, all the good stuff. If you're feeling a little frantic, pause this, take a moment, meditate, and then come back to it. So that way you're really learning from like a centered place and you're able to retain the information better. This isn't a pop quiz. This isn't memorization. Okay, this is about you intuitively pulling what resonates with you. Again, I feel like I'm gonna hammer that in at the beginning of every module. But let's go ahead and dive into this one because it is reclaimed mind and body. Why do I pair these together? Because a lot of how we perceive our body comes from within the mind. And that is definitely a thing that I have noticed over the years through my own personal experience and through other people's experiences, is that a lot of times there aren't as many things we need to do to reclaim our bodies. We don't need to change it to make it look a different way or whatever that is, right? It's really just about the mind in relation to the body. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but let's go ahead and dive into these topics and how do we reclaim the mind and body, because it's a powerful thing when you do. So where I want to start with this is kind of taking a moment to acknowledge the fact that society can feed us the story of perfection or self-sacrifice. You'll kind of find this theme if you watch, right? You kind of find this theme in a lot of things, in a lot of places. I literally was just watching someone talking about the history of racism and white supremacy and that kind of culture, and how, when we're looking at history, things can be like our Constitution, for example. I'm trust me, I got a point to this. Our Constitution, for example, is the Constitution. It's this very amazing, powerful, a wonderful thing that was accomplished, but at the same time has racist undertones. So it can be both, right? And a lot of people might have a hard time digesting that because there's this level of, no, it has to be perfect, no, it has to be right, no, it has to be this way, no, it has to be that way. And it can't be both. And so that's where that was just kind of an example that I experienced most recently, where I saw that and I was like, this idea of perfectionism, right? If we don't have the body, or we're not acting the right way, if we're maybe the nerd, or we're too quiet, or we're too much, or whatever it may be, right? It doesn't reach the standard of perfection. And of course, it's always being shown to us be you, be authentic. But at the same time, make sure you look professional. Make sure you act in a way that isn't going to offend someone or something like that, right? So there's this ideology of perfection, and I think that's very prominent in Western culture, right? I live in the United States, and I think that's very prominent here. I can only speak from perspective, but I know I don't know, but what I've speculated from more maybe Eastern cultures is that there's that, doing for others, that kind of self-sacrifice. And I do think both are at play, in both areas. So I'm not like a history major or anything like that, but I see the parallels, I see common themes, and I see how those themes actually impact all of our mental health. And so this whole even concept of self-sacrifice, right, it can be kind of self-defeating, because then maybe we don't take care of ourselves, or it feels selfish to take care of ourselves. And again, when we don't meet these standards, we start to judge ourselves, tear ourselves apart, and we start to not feel in alignment with who we are, right? When we don't meet that standard, whether it's fed to us by family, friends, community, society, it eats away at our self-love. And I think especially for people that have dealt with bipolar anxiety, depression, or any mental illnesses or disabilities or anything like that, that's where there's this misalignment of, it's like it eats away at that self-love because you don't feel whole. You might feel broken or not complete because you don't meet this standard, right? So I want to start with that. Just kind of let that all be at the forefront of your mind. And that's something that, over the coming days, months, years, like be mindful of that. See, like, are you getting those kinds of messages of perfection, of self-sacrifice? My puppy is always in the background. The next thing I want to touch on and I want to bring to your attention, is I think awareness of this stuff. That's what these videos are about. It's about, right, like cracking open that awareness, is that the mind is very habitual. And the reason I bring this up is because I tend to see a lot of things as habit. And by habit, I mean you don't have to think about it consciously. It's programmed into your subconscious. So it's that automatic habit. And we talked about that in the last module, right? So the other thing that's very fascinating about the mind being habitual is that when you have experiences that are paired with emotions, so you have the experience and you pair that with an emotion, it fuses into a really strong, it can almost kind of be the shortcut to the subconscious. And you see this in a lot of cases with people who have experienced trauma. And instead of it being like a habit that you build where it's like, oh, repetition, I have to do this over and over, all of a sudden it's like fused straight into identity or your beliefs or your behaviors. It kind of makes this sudden switch. And even if it's not sudden, something that's traumatic can then be reinforced with that repetition over time. On the other hand, what's so cool about knowing this, right, is that we can use that intentionally. And that's what I love to do here, is by pairing experiences with intentional emotions, we can fuse those into new identity, beliefs, behaviors, all that cool stuff. And when we do that, right, this all bleeds over into how we perceive ourselves or assume other people's perceptions of us. So the thing with this, right, about the mind being habitual, and if it's something we're not intentionally looking at and breaking apart and trying to kind of, I don't want to use the word correct, but to shift or to change or to grow, if you will, is that, excuse me, I've got hiccups, is that we can end up with unhelping coping mechanisms that begin to build the habit of mental illness. I truly believe bipolar anxiety and depression, these are things that are built with that, either that shortcut from trauma or that repetition of unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I know for me in my life, that has looked like so many things. That has looked like trying to drink to change my mood. That has been consuming massive amounts of caffeine and sugar to try to change how I feel or to try to be more upbeat. That's also looked like not drinking water so that my stomach wouldn't bloat and I'd look thinner, right? It's also looked like playing small, and whenever I pursue something big and it doesn't work out, I put myself down and I'm like, well, yeah, it wasn't supposed to be like that anyway, and you probably need to learn more, right? So these can come up in all these different ways. So that's where I want to bring this to your awareness. We're going to talk about how to do this, okay? So don't be like, oh, what do I do? I got you. But I want to bring that to your awareness, is that, there is this not enoughness or this having to prove your worthiness that happens within society, within families, within friendships. And it's just not necessary, because you don't have anything to prove and you don't have any bar to reach, and you don't have to look or be or whatever a certain way in order to live aligned and happy and fulfilled, right? It's different. Our world is massively diverse, mentally, physically, all those things. And so this is where we get to put that into practice so that we can reclaim our mind and body and begin to love ourselves a whole lot more when we finally put down the freaking pressure of being like, oh, I have to do it this way, or I have to be this way, or, I have to achieve it this way. And, instilling healthy new habits in ourselves so that we can have more of that self-love and not have that perception or thinking that way anymore. We can phase that out and be like, okay, I can let go of that now. And I know for me, just to give you an even more recent example, that's been huge in my business, is I've seen all of these amazing coaches and mentors and leaders and everything get to the top through complete and total hustle and self-sacrifice. And to me, I prioritize my mental health. It's massively important. And I know it is for you too. It is for every single one of my students. And I'm like, no, that's not the only way to get there. It's not the only way to get there. And so we don't have to, we can challenge things. We can question things in order to create a new way of doing something, a new way of being that feels way more aligned, that we feel comfortable with, right? Or empowered by, and go that way. So how do we reclaim our mind and body, right? How do we even start doing that? And it's not as complicated as you might think. That's what I love about this, is mental health, I think, has been made out to be super complicated, and that you have to understand the psychology and the chemistry and all those things. And yes, I've learned about so much of that, but when it boils down to it, it really isn't that complicated. So one of the, the first ways, and I do take a cognitive behavioral approach. Of course, there are other ways to do it. That's what's so cool. You're here because you vibe with me in the way I do it. So that's what's up. But one of my favorite ways to start that is mantras, positive self-talk, right? And having self-conversations. So that's kind of three things, and let's break that apart a little bit. Mantras, you're most likely familiar with, right? It's just those kind of positive I am statements, like, I am worthy, I am beautiful. And it's not, I am not this, right? We want to give our brain the attention of the positive thing, not the attention of not the negative thing. So I hope that makes sense. And this is something, of course, in the workbook, I'm going to help you work through all of this. So again, just take notes, stick with me. But mantras are a powerful thing. I know for me, I used mantras big time when it came to learning to love my body again, because I hated, I'll flat out say it, I hated my body. I hated everything about it. And, and the thing that, not everybody is in this situation, but for me personally, a lot of times I got the, like, oh, you can't be struggling with mental health because you're funny and you laugh all the time. You can't be upset about your weight because you're skinny. Oh, you can't be this because you're pretty. Oh, you can't be this. It was that constant dismissal. Oh, you can't feel that way. You can't be this way. You can't do this. Blah, blah, blah. So that all aside, this is where I started, was with those mantras. And my smile used to be something I was so self-conscious about. And, every time I'd look in the mirror, I would do a mantra of being like, I have a beautiful smile. I have a beautiful smile. That's what's up. And it feels weird and it feels awkward at first. But this is where those mantras and that positive self-talk kind of come together. And I'm going to give you a little tip that you might have already heard me teach before, but it's the positive chaser. Anytime a negative thought pops up, don't judge it. Don't try to get rid of it. Simply follow it up with a positive thought or mantra about the same thing. So if you're like, oh, I'm so stupid, follow it up with, no, I'm always willing to learn. And I do go in with a no, because I'm like, no, that's my way to step in. You can kind of give yourself a little nudge. You can be like, no. You could snap, give yourself a little kind of trigger to remember. And be mindful of your tone as well in this. And I'm not trying to tone police anybody, but tone is a very powerful thing. And so if you're trying to tell yourself you're beautiful, don't just be like, ugh, no, I'm beautiful. That doesn't resonate. So as weird and awkward as it might feel, try to have that a loving tone. How would you say it to a friend? How would you say that to somebody you cared about? Because how you say something to them is how we want to say it to ourselves as well, right? Or how would we want somebody to say it to us? Would you want somebody to come up to you and be like, ugh, I guess you're beautiful. Like, it's gross. We don't want that, right? So let's be mindful of that. And don't expect it to be perfect right off the bat. If you catch yourself, that's the cool part. Catch yourself and be like, okay, let me say that a little differently. Let me try again. And that's totally okay. The other thing I want you to do when it comes to reclaiming your mind and body is I want you to check in on yourself. I want you to have little conversations with yourself. People might say, well, girl, it's crazy if you're talking to yourself. No, it's helpful. It's helpful to talk to ourselves. So if you're sitting on the toilet, be like, hey, Olivia, how are you doing today? How's it going? Well, I'm not feeling the greatest. Honestly, I feel like I've kind of been in a funk for the last 2 hours. Okay. How can I help myself through that then? What could I do to make myself maybe feel a little better? Well, maybe I just want to close my eyes for a second right here on the toilet and breathe and think of a few things that I'm grateful for. Maybe I want to listen to some music. Maybe I need to get some fresh air, right? Talk to yourself. Be constructive. Give yourself options. Be honest with yourself. Support yourself. Help yourself. It's an amazing thing. The other thing, and of course, if you have people around you that are going to support you, you can be like, hey, could you randomly check in on me sometimes and just be like, hey, just checking in on you like you asked. How are you doing today? How are you feeling right now? And you can talk to somebody and help and get that support. I've done that with my husband. I'm like, hey, if you notice me in a funky mood, tap my shoulder and say, hey, you're doing that thing that we talked about. Would you like to work on it? And I would literally be like, thank you. And then I'd start working on it. And we talked about, how he could help with that and help approach me in a way that didn't feel confronting or demeaning. And so I just want you to know that that's something, you can do as well. And and if you need support with something like that in the group, let us know. And we can also support you in the group and kind of just do like random check-ins. Be like, can you guys check in on me randomly? That would be great. I'll be like, what's up? So, know that you have support. You can do this for yourself, but if you have the support available, utilize it. It's an amazing thing. Now, we kind of talked about those. Another thing, of course, is appreciation and gratitude. This is a massive form of self-care. Self-care is basically anything you do for yourself that's just going to help foster some love, where you're like, oh, I'm taking care of myself. Oh, I'm helping myself. That's really amazing. Okay, this is how we build up self-love. This is how we reclaim our minds and our bodies, is that we start to nurture ourselves more. That's all it is. So, of course, I always go with gratitude nuggets. That's what I call them. They're my grat nuggies, my grat nug nugs, my G nugs, all the things. You can call it whatever you want. But, appreciation and gratitude. Now, I want to kind of talk about the two of those, because for me, for the longest time, I didn't really do appreciation. I did a lot of gratitude. Gratitude's great. I'm always down with the gratitude nuggets. Grab myself a 24-piece and I chow down. But gratitude has always kind of been this like, oh, I'm really grateful for this person. I'm really grateful for this in my life. It's kind of this like, thank you, if you will. And I think it's kind of up to you, whether you want to go gratitude or you want to go appreciation, or you want to go both. I'm going to leave it up to you. But for me, gratitude is kind of that, that energy of like, oh, I'm looking for things that I'm grateful for. Appreciation is like, man, I really appreciate myself right now. Like, I appreciate that I'm here. I appreciate like what I'm doing. I appreciate massively that I am here recording this module for you. I'm so appreciative of myself, and I'm so appreciative of you that you're here and watching it. Again, appreciation and gratitude kind of sound similar. So do what resonates with you. I'm not going to tell you which one to use. Somebody tried to tell me which one to use, and that's what got me thinking about it. But I'm here to tell you, I don't have your answer. Whatever resonates with you. Do you want to appreciate everything in your life? Or do you want to be grateful for everything in your life? Or do you want to mix it up? Keep it fresh. It's your call, okay? But do those things because they are massively, massively beneficial and important and really helpful. I mean, you can have, and here's the other thing. Have fun with gratitude. Baby, have fun with gratitude. You can be grateful for the sun shining, but at the same time, I have been grateful when I held my baby in my arms and she was projectile vomiting milk on to my face, okay? And in that moment, I just braced myself and I literally went, gratitude nugget, she did not puke in my mouth. It didn't get in here. It got everywhere else, but it did not get in here. And it helped me feel, that was my dog shaking. But it helped me feel so much better. Like in that moment, I was like, I gotta win in this whole situation. There's literally puke down my shirt and in my pants. I've gotta win. Okay, so you can have fun with it. You can be playful with it. You know, if one shoe breaks, gratitude nugget, the other shoe's still going strong. Okay? It can be anything that you want. And so I encourage you to be playful with it and don't feel like it has to be so serious. Because honestly, it also kind of just, again, it brings that emotion. It's fun, it's funny. And so when you do that experience, are you grateful for stuff? And then you kind of make it fun and you're like, fused, and it sticks better. Okay? So that's what's really cool. You can do that with anything. You can, if you ever want to invoke an emotion, you just take a moment, and literally, I bet you could do it right now. You could take a moment and just be like, what does it feel like to think things are really funny right now? Or what does it feel like to be like really calm? What does it feel like in my body? What does it feel like in my mind? What are my thoughts like in those moments? And when you do that, you can use your brain to intentionally evoke an emotion. And that's basically what you're doing with gratitude and appreciation. Pro tip. So, you know, in a space with the bad, when you don't feel like you have any control over your emotions, begin to practice and show yourself that you actually do, because you do. And in a later module, in the next couple modules, actually the beginning of phase 2, honestly, when we talk about triggers, that's when you get to put it into practice in those really extreme moments, okay, when it feels the toughest to control your emotions. Do this when you're not in those moments. You can do it when you're in those moments, but do this as practice, because again, then it becomes habit, and then you continue to do it even in the toughest of times. That's what's really cool. So you can apply it to anything in life. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, as far as reclaiming mind and body, right, is value in your uniqueness. Like, value uniqueness. What makes you different? What makes you stand out? What's the thing that you're like maybe the most ashamed of because it's so different? Everybody points it out, makes comments about it, and you're like, can we not? Okay? What is that? How can you value that makes you so different? That makes you so unique. That makes you so special. Like for me, let's see if it's happening. You can't really see it on the video. My ears, when I talk and when I speak, my body gets neon red, okay? My mouth, my teeth, my gums, like it's so big. I have a calcium deposit on my tooth, okay? My boobs sag, bro. They do. So all of these things, like we're constantly changing, we're constantly growing. How are you constantly evolving in your uniqueness? And how can you take the time to, again, use mantras, use positive self-talk, use appreciation and gratitude to love everything about yourself that is unique? You don't have any flaws. You have no flaws, okay? I don't care if it's like literally you did the worst thing in the world. It's not a flaw. It's something unique about you that you can, again, change from shame or embarrassment or judgment or secrecy or whatever it is, and own it. You can value it. You can love it. And maybe not everybody is going to be on board with that. That is okay. Again, our world is massively diverse. To expect everyone to love it and everyone to be exactly the same and to see things exactly the same, that's a big ask. I don't think we're at that point right now. I don't know if we ever will be, and that's okay. I think that's the beauty of it. So I want you to start practicing that, valuing that uniqueness in yourself, because that is a complete reclamation of who you are. And like, I love you know me, like I love giving examples. I love giving personal stories. And, for me, my body changed massively after having kids. And so I learned to value how my body became even more unique after that happens. I've also learned to value that, like, owning my witchiness. Like, I love doing, so I literally have a spell candle right here. What's up? Like, I love doing spells and believing in magic and all these things. And it's something that literally I was traumatized about as a kid. And I hid it and I repressed it and I let go of it because I was so ashamed of it and I was so embarrassed of it. And literally was bullied, tormented, had people attempt to convert me, my own family members. Like, all of that happened. I'm sorry if you hear a truck. All of that happened, and you know, it's something that you practice and just say, no, this is a beautiful thing. This is a wonderful thing. I'm proud of this. I don't care if you're not. I'm proud of this, and I value this, and it makes me super unique, and I'm so down with that. So, I could go for hours on uniqueness, but we don't have that time. So I'm going to stop there. So, you know, own that. Own your uniqueness. And maybe that's in, you know, your body type. Maybe that's in your interests. I have so many dead things in my home. I collect dead things. I love them, right? It could be in the way that you dress. I know for a long time, I felt like I had to pick one style. And then I was like, why? I love wearing graphic tees and pretty dresses and like whatever. Like, I'm all over the place with how I dress. I own that. That is my style, is that I have no style. And, you know, again, so it's with all of these things and the foods that you like and the things that you're interested in, all of it, right? Own that. And we're going to get into that in phase 3, okay? About really that, like, your identity. So begin to practice it now, okay? Take ownership of what makes you unique and makes you cool, because makes you cool. Why don't I just, you are cool no matter what. But what's amazing is when you own that, when you love yourself in that, it attracts more people that love it too, and that maybe relate to it, and that you can then bond over, and then you feel more aligned in who you are, and you feel even better about yourself, and you're not stressed, and you're not depressed, and it's these simple things. It's these simple things that beat mental illness. Like, no joke. Now, the last one is leaving others' opinions with them. Okay? Not everyone is going to see the world in the way that you do, or in the way that we do. Not everybody's going to know how to be respectful, or be kind, or be accepting, or be open. And I truly, and I kind of see it as people who, you know, right now we're reclaiming our mind and body. There are going to be people that haven't reclaimed theirs, and they're just running on subconscious programming that they've learned from society and family. And it may not even be what they want to believe. It's just what they know to believe, or how they know to behave. And, you know, we can just leave their opinions with them, right? They get to say whatever they want to say, but you get to choose how it affects you. And that will be something that you practice, I promise. But again, that is through mantras and positive self-talk. And we will talk about in phase 3, we will talk about how to connect with others. That's going to help you no matter what anybody is doing or how they're choosing to be, you still get to be in control of how you feel and how you are. Okay, so that's coming, I promise. This is a big one, so we can't just unpack it in this one module, but it's coming. So leave others' opinions with them, okay? And I know it's going to be a big deal, especially if those opinions are coming from people that you have massive emotional ties to, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, okay? I'll give you 3 little tips right here to leave another person's opinion with them. It's all about making space, okay? So you can reclaim your mind. It's all about making space. So you can make physical space, literally, by either telling that person, like, okay, I can't be around you anymore, like, I need space from you, or not talking to them as much, those kinds of things. Or you can make mental space. Literally imagine when they start spewing off their opinions, and you're like, I'm not down with your opinion, like, you can have it, but I'm not down with it. Like, literally imagine a tiny door inside your brain, and close it. Don't crack it. Don't entertain, you know what I mean? Like, don't leave it wide open so you're just like taking the brunt force of their opinion. Go ahead and close it. They can speak, but the door is shut and it's not coming in. They get their opinion, they can knock all day long, but the door is shut and you're making space in that capacity, that mental capacity. So that's where I want to leave it. However, I want to wrap this up really quick with giving you a framework. It's going to be in the workbook as well, to reclaim your mind. And mind is what we're breaking apart in this framework. So reclaim your mind. The M, mantras. Okay? Easy to remember. Mantras. Now mantras again, are that going to be that like positive self-talk, self-conversations, mantras. Okay? Then we have the I, which is intentional love. All right? Be intentional with showing yourself appreciation, gratitude, showing your life appreciation, gratitude, okay? And valuing yourself and your uniqueness, all that good stuff. Then the N is for noticing. Be mindful. Try to be aware of if you have any negative self-talk, or if you're feeling like, if you're feeling, or not, my bad. Those like subconscious, automatic, habitual thoughts are coming up like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, it's not, yada, yada, yada. Notice it. Bring awareness to it, because remember, we're not judging it. It's not a bad thing. Just noticing it so that we can step in and give it some more love. Like that. And then the D is do you, boo. Stand in your truth. Stand in your authenticity. Like, be who you are. And if right now that means that who you are is sad a lot of the times, that's okay. That's okay. You're working on it, and that's okay. And if somebody's like, I can't be around you, you're always sad, walk, because that's where I'm at right now. And maybe I'm trying to grow from that, but that is where I'm at right now. That is what it is, right? And so show up in whatever way you need to right now. Like, do you dress the way you want, be interested in the things you want, pursue the dreams you want, all of those things. Yes, people might have other opinions, but remember, we're leaving those at the door. So mantras, intentional love, noticing, do you, boo, reclaim your mind. That's what you're practicing. I'm going to give you actionable steps in the workbook. You're going to get the framework in the workbook, and I'm going to give you journal prompts to help you move through this in the workbook. All that good stuff. So please, of course, the next module is going to unlock after this video ends, but please take the time, go in and do that workbook, and share with us in the group, what were your insights? Share some things that you were really like, wow, that blew me away. It's really interesting. All of that beautiful stuff. Like, share that with us, because you have a safe space to talk about it. You have a safe space to practice being, being from a place of self-love and from a reclaimed mind. So we're your guinea pigs. You can practice on us. You're safe in there. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to do any of that. Okay? So sending you lots of love. I can't wait to see you in module 3, which is all about trusting yourself. Go do your workbook, drink some water, get some rest, all the things. Okay. I love you. See you in the next module.